This is Matt and Jennifer Lucas with the Franchising Company, back for another Zoom interview. Today we are going to be talking with John from Glow Sauna. Before we dive in, though, if you like what you hear as you're watching this video, feel free to click the link below and check to see if your market is still available. You can also text me at 270-215-2844 for that same information. So with that out of the way, John, thanks for taking some time here. And if you don't mind, just briefly introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about Glow Sauna.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the time for you guys as well. Absolutely. Happy New Year to everybody. I'll try to be as brief as possible so we can get into the questions. So a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Texas, from a military family, born in Germany, moved all over the place, went to University of Texas, mechanical engineering degree, didn't work as an engineer a day, went into food and beverage with Brinker International out of Dallas for about 10 years, became a managing partner with them, transitioned into private equity and commercial real estate lending with a private group out of Denver, who happened to be connected to Clear Choice Dental Implants. So I moved over there as their VP of operations for a number of years before their buyout. Then the first transition into a true franchise model as the chief operating officer of WellBiz brands. So that includes Elements Massage, Fitness Together. Now it's Amazing Lash, and Dry Bar is also included, owned by KSL out of Denver. Did some entrepreneurial work with some smaller franchise groups for quite some time, and then started doing consulting when I got a call from a friend of mine who knew Josh Terzo, who's the founder of Glow Sauna. And he and I did a call. I wasn't that interested at the time because it was pretty new. I don't mind the newness of it, but it was very new. And so called this, 18 months ago. But when I spoke with him, I just realized how smart he was with the model. He was a personal infrared sauna user. And just to backtrack a little bit back to the WellBiz days, we looked at some infrared brands back then, called this 10 years ago, and felt it might be a little new. We didn't know if the retail really aspect was going to come on strong. There were a lot of early benefit and medical claims that I don't think we were that comfortable with. So we wanted to see a little more data behind it. So we never really pursued it, but I always kept my eye on it. So Josh, he looked at some of the emerging brands in the space because he really couldn't find it locally. It was either going to be like maybe one in a big box gym, and it was hard to find a spot. It really wasn't that readily available. So he decided to do it on his own. So we built the first location about 7 years ago in Dallas. That's the Mockingbird location. We still own that as a corporate location. That's where we do our training, and that manager actually is the same one that goes and does on-site training for the new openings. We just did Las Vegas last week, and we've got a soft opening in Atlanta actually starting today. So that's exciting for us as well.
Yeah, great.
And he really just walked away. He's from a finance background and said, I don't know if I love these economics of the brands that are kind of out there. They're for a number of reasons, mainly the build out cost versus the revenue. And his model proved out at coming out of COVID. He built the second location in Dallas, which is on Prestonwood, and decided, these economics really play through more than you would expect. You don't really see an under $500,000 investment doing, 600 to 800 with 40% EBITDA very often, with a very low employee model. So we got Fisher Zucker involved. We did all the paperwork and filed last year. So we did 12 new units in about 9 months last year, and we're expecting a very big year this year. And that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, so we're really excited.
So let's kind of dive into the model itself a little bit. Can you just explain to the viewers, what is Glow Sauna? What exactly do you guys do and offer?
Well, and just hit on, I'd really like to hit on this whole wellness phenomenon that's happening. And it's obviously going to stay, but talk about just the actual products and the services too.
Sure. So wellness is not going anywhere, as we all know that. That was why I was interested in coming back into it, and I'll get some of the benefits, and also get some of the operational benefits that are different from a lot of wellness models. So I'll try to go through a couple of questions here. So we are 90% infrared treatment. So there's some variability in there. So traditionally, most people use the inside cabins. So they actually go inside of it. Our sessions typically run 45 minutes. So very different from a humid sauna. So you see a lot of humid sauna, which goes to cold plunge, right? That's a disparity of treatment that's fairly popular right now. Very different. Infrared actually activates things within your body. And so you stay there much longer because you're not in there marinating, for lack of a better term. I mean, you would never make it 45 minutes in a humid sauna. And all kinds of things. Skincare is a big one, blood pressure treatment. A lot of people that are recovering from burns, kids on the autism spectrum seem to look at a lot of benefits in there. And we just had a feature on the Las Vegas location because her son is on the spectrum, and they did a huge profile on that. So I can share that link and you can drop it into your feed if you'd like. Weight loss. We don't want to make too many medical components. There is some data around cancer recovery, but I'm not in a position to point to any specific facts around there. But just a general overall feeling of well-being is what people kind of leave with. And we're even to the point where we're opening up at 6 a.m. because people want to come in before they go to work and they want to feel rejuvenated. So that's the majority of it. So that could be in the cabins themselves. So picture a cabin like you would have in a normal sauna, but smaller. Obviously, our biggest ones probably would have 4 people. So we do a lot of bring a friend days for our unlimited members. So we get a lot of people coming into the larger cabins and sharing the experience. There'll be a TV outside of the cabin, and the speakers will be internal. So people can put on music, they can put on nothing if they don't want to, but any TV show, whatever they'd like. And obviously there's not a noise issue because it's contained within there. So sound insulation is one of the big things that we don't have to do a lot of heavy investing with a lot of wellness brands that you have to. So that's one of the areas that we save a lot of money. The other is we're very low build out on plumbing. We don't do showers. We don't do cold plunges. So you take those combined with the installation, that's where the majority of the build out savings are coming, along with the corporate agreements we have with all of our providers. We've got flooring, the cabins themselves, obviously all the millworking, as well as the architecture. So we try to keep it really, really simple from that aspect. We do have people requesting, can I do an auxiliary service? So that would be something they're very passionate about, or they feel like it's a business opportunity. So as an example, my college roommate founded Restore Hyper Wellness, and he sold it and did very well. But when he reflects on it, he said, we were trying to do too much and be everything for everyone, and it ended up crippling them from an operational and a cost standpoint. Because, for instance, with IV components, they had to have a nurse practitioner there all the time and a chief medical officer. So that became kind of limiting as they grew. So and for instance, in Atlanta, we're allowing her to do IV, but it's through a third party, and it's very regimented. So we have a flex room typically, which could be a room that's the same size as a cabin, but could be someone could bring in a massage therapist once a week, right? But it's not anything that we're requiring the franchisees to do. And we also are very scripted about how they do it, so they're not losing money. So as an example, with the IV components, let's say they did Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, people would have to sign up ahead of time. They'd have to choose their bag. It's a terrible term, but it's the pre-dosed IV component. And we typically use 5, and it's the same ones that Restore uses. And he introduced us to their supplier. And they have to do the waivers ahead of time. Now, you're not going to make as much money, but as a round number, it'll be $50 for someone to come in and do a single treatment, but you're probably charging $150. So, and have no liability and no oversight and no insurance because it's on the third party provider. And you know that you're going to be full or you don't bring them in. So it's fantastic. So we try to keep it really, really simple. One of the things that came out of my conversation with Josh the first time was, you know what? One thing that I don't think you're focused in on enough is all the brands that I ran in health and wellness. It wasn't the pricing that was limiting factor of success, and it wasn't the consumer's demand. that was the limiting factor. It was your schedule. If you didn't have a massage therapist, you don't have a schedule. If you don't have a blowout artist, you don't have a schedule. And they're expensive, and there's a lot of competition for those specialty people now. With this, we use mind body, everything's app driven, we don't take cash, the cabins are on, right? The employee model is 1, 2 at peak times at any given hour of the day. So you eliminate that big need for that specialty person that are hard to come by, and you're not splitting a lot of those session costs with them. So that's why the flow through on the revenue side is so strong. That might have been too much information. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What size space are you typically looking for?
So the smallest one we've done so far would be call it 1,300. Average is going to be 15 to 18. And that would get you anywhere from 10 to 15 units, rooms, cabins, whatever term you'd like to use.
How many of your current locations have that flex space? It's in
all of them.
All of them, okay.
And kind of circling back to something that you mentioned earlier, but well, I just lost my train of thought completely. Go ahead.
Well,
we can edit it out. Don't worry.
Yep.
No, thank you.
I'll come back to it.
So you mentioned that it's membership based.
That's where I was going.
So give me an idea of the pre-sale process, how you get those memberships in place, and how you retain them.
Sure. All near and dear to my heart, because after opening up 1,000 health and wellness locations. So in general, we're pretty dead on the revenue split. I'll start with the revenue and we'll work it backwards. 70 to 75% of monthly revenue is going to be from the membership base. So recurring revenue. That's held pretty steady. And that's pretty common from what I see across other brands that I've ran. The difference would be first-time triers, a little bit of retail. We don't do a lot. We do some rehydration, things of that nature. Package sales, gift cards, things of that nature will make up kind of the difference. So 70 to 75 is going to be membership. So it's pretty easy to model out where you need to get to quickly. So I'm a big fan of how you start is how you go. Meaning when you swing that door open day one, I want you to have 100 members already. And what we do is we go back starting 4 months prior to expected opening date, and we start marketing ahead of time. So it'll start a little bit soft. Mostly will be digital. I don't mind. I'm not a huge fan of direct mail as a normal aspect of marketing, but I do like it when you're new to an area. I think the things that work with direct mail would be if people don't know you even exist and you're just bringing attention to the awareness of your location coming, it works. On an ongoing basis, saying it's 2 for 1 for Valentine's Day, things of that nature, I think it's expensive and a little inefficient. So most of ours is going to be in the meta world. So that's where we're getting the biggest aspects. We've also developed a pretty robust community engagement guide, which talks about how you get out there and do health and wellness partnerships so you can get cross marketing. How do you go and script an employee to go to a farmer's market and sit there with the iPad for signing up? So we've built all these tools out already, and overcoming the objections of I don't want to give my credit card before you open. That's okay. You can put it on the file in secure place and delay the payments. So kind of making it a very much of a no-brainer on that aspect. And then if you talked about the retention aspect, this is something that I think a lot of brands don't do very well. Everybody wants to hammer on marketing. They want to hammer their employees on conversions. And I say, well, you lost 20 members last month. Maybe save 10 of those, and how much difference would that make over a course of 18 months? And the research that we used to do, it wasn't that complicated. Once someone came into a membership model, the top 2 or 3 reasons were pretty obvious, but people don't do them well. The first one was when people quit a membership model is they couldn't get in when they wanted to. So this is kind of eliminated in this model because, again, you don't have to have a specialty tech there to fill that schedule. So that kind of goes away. But the other big one, price kind of comes in, but not really, and not with us so far. It stopped being about me. So when they first come in, Like you knew their name, you gave them the tour, you asked them all kinds of questions. And then 4 months down the road, they're coming in, they've already booked it on their app and they just walk in, you give them a wave and they leave. You're going to lose those people. So I'm a big advocate of nurturing, continuous nurturing. I go back like to the Nordstrom model. I used to go to the same jewelry person for years and years and years and years to buy presents. And she knew all the answers already, but she would still ask the same questions every single time. So we get in the habit of, how did you sleep the last time you were here? Has anything changed? Do you want to go hotter? Do you want to go shorter duration? Anything you want to adjust? So we try to really stay on top of that, because that makes people feel like it's still about them. If it becomes a friendship relationship where they feel like they're just giving and not getting, you'll lose them. You'll lose them fast.
I think that goes to, like you said, across a lot of different business models. I mean, it's when you create a personal relationship with somebody, they feel vested, right? And so it's harder for them to say, you know what, I'm going to stop going, because they're going to miss their daily conversations with Tom or Judy or whoever, right? Because they've got that personal connection. And so if you just take a few minutes to kind of build and create that, it makes a huge difference in retention and people coming back.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm very big on prepping for the day. Know your schedule, who's coming in, when are they coming in, what were the notes from last time. It takes 15 minutes and it makes a world of difference.
Right.
So does everybody have to book an appointment beforehand, or can you just stop by and walk in?
Yeah, the majority of people book. We do get walk-ins, and as long as there's an availability, we'll put them right in.
And then you had talked to me a couple of weeks ago, that something I didn't know, but HSA and FSA are accepted. These are.
Yeah, so the majority of the HSA and FSA plans where you're using a traditional debit card, this is a qualified expense, so people can use it from their insurance plans. The other thing is we do have people requesting their invoicing to submit at end of year to qualify against their deductible, because most plans consider this I don't know what the right word is in the medical world, but it means it's an approved service or a recognized service, or whatever the medical term is. So we do get quite a bit of that. We don't do any medical billing, nor are we trying to get involved in the insurance world, because I did that for a long time and it's very complicated. So, but we'll accommodate people for sure. But no, majority of our locations, HSA, FSA, and getting invoices to submit towards deductible has never been a problem.
Now, did we talk about the initial investment, kind of what that looks like?
We haven't, but we can. So one of the things that I think separates us quite a bit, I didn't mean to do the thumbs up. It was just.
No, I think I did. I drive by it too.
We're running. We don't talk about Sweat House very much because they're $1 million+ build out. But we're building out, including franchise fee and operating reserves, low 200s to high 300s, which is about half to a third of other people in the space. And we're running just as high as revenue. And then you can do the simple math to see what the profit margins would look like. I talked about some of the reasons why the big differences were. And when you're building out a small space, the two things that I mentioned could double your budget easily. I mean, if you're putting in a cold plunge, for instance, that's $80,000 by itself. In showers, people say, well, I want showers. Nobody cares about showers. I'll be honest with you. Nobody cares about them. And in all honesty, it's different, again, from the human sauna. You also don't want to cool down too quickly, because the current science is stating it's actively working within you for 45 minutes to an hour. So you actually want to kind of keep it going. You don't want to shut it down. So the benefits stay on there a lot longer than once you exit the cabin. So, and you're not also don't come out like drenched because it's not humid again. So those are the big reasons. Obviously, the biggest spread between the low end of the investment and the high end are going to be the size of your space. Obviously, a larger size will cost you more. And where are you in the country? Some countries are more expensive, or parts of the country are more expensive when it comes to construction materials and labor material or labor costs. So those are the two biggest reasons between the gaps.
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how long on average are your owners getting open after signing the agreement?
Yeah, so I track two different cycle times. So the first cycle time is from franchise agreement to opening, but I'm always finding after doing this for so long that from LOI execution on lease to opening is probably the better one because there's so many factors within a local market. You could have a really picky owner who looks at spaces for months and months and months and months. You could be in a really constrained market where the retail space isn't as available as it is in other parts. We do have specific power requirements, as you would guess. The cabins do pull a lot of amperage, so we typically want to have 400 amps. So sometimes you can't always get that. So those are the things that kind of like say they're variables, but I'll break it down a little bit because it's never as easy as it sounds. So I'll say swinging hammer times, it's 8 to 12 weeks. It's not that long. But in between that, the things you can't control are how long did it take for the city to approve my permits? How quickly do they come out and do the inspections along the line? You know, those things that they're all over the place across the country, but actual physical space work is not that long.
That's impressive as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed by how low your initial investment is. That's exceptionally low for a brick and mortar facility.
Yeah.
Sir,
Especially in this space.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
all
for
the
sure.
fancy equipment and yeah.
circling
Yeah, and the numbers I did quote you do include, that's the full item 7. So that includes cabins. We don't have a lot of computers, but it would include the TVs and the millworking, the flooring, everything. So that's all in there.
working capital and everything.
Yep.
Awesome. Circling back real quick to the pre-sale program, you said that your goal or target is to hit 100, members before the doors open. Are you seeing that at most of your locations, or are people doing more than that as well?
Yeah. So the two most recent ones, how do I want to say this? I was not to shepherding them the entire time. I kind of came in about halfway through, but we opened with 65 and 74. So not quite 100, but still not bad.
Yeah.
And what are your, I don't know if we talked about this, what are the average fees for the memberships? Sounds like you had different levels.
There are. So right now, kind of the standard for the unlimited is 139 or 149. I think it's low, if I'm being honest with you. We have no price black push whatsoever. I will tell you that we've got a group that's about to close on 5 locations in kind of the Silicon Valley area. They're modeling their launch at 250. So they're like going, they're going completely, that's, what is that, 60% higher. So it's market specific. And just like most franchise groups, we don't dictate their pricing. We try to work with them to understand the consumer model and what people can tolerate. I also, I try to talk about utilization and knowing when to increase pricing. So, you want to talk about max utilization, meaning every room is taken every hour you're open, right? Which is almost impossible. And then you've got, optimum, which I cut 80%, and then kind of like target, which would be 80% of that. So you take those numbers, once you're at 65, 64, 65% of your max capacity, then you start thinking about pricing a little bit. Now you're at a point where okay, I've got this. And what I've seen in the past, when we did price increases across multiple brands, the franchise owner was scared to death to take pricing. They thought they were going to lose everybody. It's usually about 10%. That's what it's almost always, it's about 10%.
Someone's at the front door.
Oh, boy.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
So the dogs are going crazy.
No, it's all right. It's all right. So, but I prefer people to come in, adopt, get to break even, and then make the smart choices to increase profitability at the right time.
Okay.
What kind of market are you seeing these places open? Is it any market? Are you looking for certain demographics? What are you looking for?
So every market's different. So I think what that comes down is to your growth strategy more than where we think we don't fit. We've had a lot of questions with people saying, So Las Vegas just opened. One of our initial concerns was, so it's really hot. Well, yeah, sometimes it is. But I saw that in massage. I saw that in everything. And it was typically less about the temperature outside, and it was more about people's behavioral patterns. So for instance, one of our biggest markets with Elements was the Phoenix metro area. We had 30 locations. They would dip during the summer months, not because people were gone, because most people don't travel back and forth like when Phoenix was first founded, when it was almost always second homes. They're just on vacation. School's out, they're more busy, right? It's just, that's just how the natural world works on all of this. So we see those natural trends. And so what I think the growth strategy really comes down to is this benefits any market and can go into any market. How dense you want to make it is different. People ask me about, well, what's my protected area? And I said, you're going to have a minimum one, but in all honesty, it depends, because 5 miles in Des Moines is not 5 miles in Chicago. I mean, it's incredibly different. So we have to be smarter about that. That's why we've engaged a really, really good real estate group that's for free of charge for all franchisees that go through all the site selections for them. I meet with them every Monday, and I kind of go through my veto votes. And my veto votes are, how close you are to this? What does the parking look like? Is there a left turn signal? Like all the things that would be barriers to people's behaviors. In California, do I have to cross a bridge? Do I have to get on a highway? I mean, all these dumb things that, seem like, I'm overworking the problem. That's how people behave in their real lives. So they're important. So we go through that. I typically get them, the real estate group will probably give me about 10 to start off with. I'll typically work with them to get it down to about 5. And then we bring in the franchisee, because there's nothing better than someone that lives in the community and can go physically see it, drive it, and come back. And then we're probably about 3. And then we start the offering process and kind of go from there.
This has been fantastic and a lot of great information. Is there anything that you feel like we did not ask that you think people should know?
I'm trying to think, what would I ask? So we're part of the ClassPass system. We didn't talk about that. So you guys are probably familiar with it, but ClassPass. So I was working with the development team at MindBody when I was at WellBiz, because we were trying to create this universal membership program. We never really could figure it out, even with all their tech people involved. So MindBody went out and bought ClassPass, is what MindBody did. So ClassPass is basically a membership where you can get so many tokens, for lack of a better term, on a monthly basis for your price. And then you can exchange those for anybody that's in the ClassPass system to go into a gym. You can do Pilates. So you're not locked into one particular location. You can say, okay, I'm going to use 5 of my tokens to go here. I'm going to use 6 to go to Elements. I'm going to use 4 to go to Glow, things of that nature. We get reimbursed from ClassPass. So we get a lot of business from them. We get a lot of member leads from them. Although their per revenue split that we get paid is pretty high. So just having a lot of class people coming in is very profitable. And we just were named one of their top 3 spas in the US on their last awards brochure as well. So that was exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love this brand, this whole wellness movement, and just wanting to feel better is the wave of how everything is going.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can get into it for a fraction of the cost compared to the competition, with recurring revenue.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. And going back again more than a decade ago, when we first started doing a lot of consumer research, especially in the massage world, people didn't want to say it was about them. It was, I'm recovering from an injury, or it's, and then 3 or 4 years later, it was like, you know what, this is important to me. It makes me feel better, and I feel healthier, and I enjoy my days more, and I'm going to invest in myself. And so those hangups are long gone from the consumer standpoint.
Yeah. I agree.
well, thanks again for taking the time today. And so for those of you watching, just as a reminder, if you're interested in learning more about Glow Sauna, send me a text at 270-215-2844 or click the link below, and we will check to verify that your market is still available, and then get with John on the next steps.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
See you soon.